Hey yo, good evening viewers of the tube. My name is Tyler and welcome to the channel where at least you learn something while our bags of altcoins bleed. It's a good thing I don't pretend to know TA, which I guess you learn something from that too. You learn that all these line drawing self-proclaimed gurus don't have an idea what they are talking about. It's time for Chico Crypto. Speaking about learning, I love bringing forward things about Bitcoin and crypto's history that a large majority of the holders have no idea about. Do these videos get many views? Nope, and my channel would most likely be more popular if I talked about every coin under the sun, just to gain the community supporters. Well, the knowledge and growth of my current subs is more important to me than anyone knew, so fuck that. So what are we learning about today, Chico, you may ask? Well, today we are going to dive into initial coin distributions and realize that Bitcoin still to this day is the only fair distribution in the history of crypto, making it the most decentralized crypto of all. Now, Dan Held, ex-co-founder of Interchange, wrote this article, Bitcoin's distribution was fair, all the way back in 2018. And we are going to be going through the article, breaking down each of his arguments. Understanding the fair distribution is especially important as Bitcoin continues to challenge mainstream thoughts, from centralization to decentralization. In the current state of blockchain technologies, proof of work is the only consensus which can perform a fair initial distribution. With proof of stake, there is usually a pre-mine, as initial creation of a batch of coins is needed, as people need coins to stake to validate transactions. The same goes for any proof-of-stake variant, including the popular dPOS. Same goes for any Byzantine fault-tolerant variant. An example, Neo's dBFT, where the full 100 million was pre-mined, and 50 million was given to the Neo team. Also, the initial unfair distribution in proof-of-stake makes them even more centralized, as those initial stakers always grow to be the biggest, as it's written into the proof-of-stake code, creating a controlled environment into the hands of a chosen few. But even with proof of work, there is the concept of pre-mining, where people within the project privately mine or create and allocate a number of coins to themselves before releasing the open source code to the public. A good example of this is Ethereum, which I'll get into later. Or they release the open source code, but do not promote the project at all, thus keeping mining popularity low, and they can still pre-mine a bunch of coins, but can still call it a fair distribution, even though it really wasn't. A good example of this is Ravencoin. Satoshi didn't pre-mine Bitcoin. They gave everyone a 2-month heads up before mining the Genesis block, reaching out to the only other people who would be possibly interested in experimenting with a sovereign digital currency at the time, the cypherpunks, via a public email list called the cryptography email list. He sent them and published the Bitcoin white paper on October 31st, 2008, and then the Bitcoin 0.1 software was released on January 9th, 2009 to the public. Although this was the first time any blockchain proof-of-work code was released, the Satoshi needed to know it worked. The Genesis block alone was mined 6 days earlier on January 3rd, 2009. It is unlike all other blocks and required custom code to mine it. Satoshi included the now famous message in the Genesis block, which is also proof of no pre-mine. The Times, 03, January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. Here is proof that Satoshi wasn't greedy and had the foresight and maturity not to pre-mine. The timestamp of the next full block is a full 6 days after the Genesis block. It's obvious Satoshi was testing the software with the Genesis block and wouldn't mine any more blocks themselves until it was out in the wild. So the code to mine Bitcoin was available on the day Satoshi began mining, other than the special purpose Genesis block. And once the code was released, several individuals started mining. We know for a fact one of those people was Hal Finney, as he tweeted running Bitcoin on January 10th. So for the first year of Bitcoin's existence, it was Satoshi and a slim number of willing participants, mostly cypherpunks, mining. Bitcoin was no secret. It was all over the internet, yet after a year, this group couldn't muster enough hash rate to mine more than 144 blocks per day and trigger an upwards difficulty adjustment. Satoshi hung around and mined because the network required a miner, and he turned them off when there was a stable enough network that it didn't need his mining power. Now, there is a great article called Satoshi's Hash Rate, which dives deep into Satoshi's hash rate. It's included in the description if you want to check it out. But according to their research, Satoshi reduced their percentage of the hash rate in a slow and steady manner. This chart from the article shows Satoshi had 100% of the hash rate at initial launch, but throughout 2009 dropped off until July of 2010 when they controlled none. So how many Bitcoin did Satoshi mine during this time? Well, to this day it's still impossible to know, but early research by Sergio Lerner estimated it at 1 million. Then BitMEX expanded on that research in August of 2018, and they concluded Satoshi mined around 700,000 Bitcoin, which, as we know, still to this day have yet to be moved. Now, unlike cryptos of today that automatically go to an exchange and gain value, Bitcoin's market cap was zero for nearly a year and a half. Miners were wasting money on the hardware and electricity to mine, with no guarantee that their Bitcoin would ever have value. There were actually these things called faucets that were set up to freely distribute Bitcoins in order to gain adoption, like Gavin Andreessen's Faucet, where he donated 10k BTC, and the faucet would give 5 whole BTC to each visitor. The early pioneers were the people batshit crazy enough to take all the risks, financial and social, keeping it alive and acting as the arbiters of the system in its early days. Although nearly all of these early adopters lost or sold all of their Bitcoin, which has been proven in a 3-part series by Dhruv Bansal, which I've included in the description as well. From 2009 to 2011, this was Bitcoin's Carboniferous period, where huge amounts of coins were mined, but unused because they had no value, accumulating in the blockchain, becoming lost, unusable, and buried. But then Bitcoin started trading, and value has made people 5,000% more careful. Although some coins are still lost to this day, it's just not anything like what happened between 2009 and 2011. Trading has caused boom and bust cycles, which has once again helped redistribute the coins, which can be visualized with the Bitcoin UTXO age distribution chart. Red means coins that recently changed hands. Blue means coins that haven't changed hands in years, up to 5 years. As you can see with each price run, the red to yellow spikes while the green and blue contracts, meaning coins are being redistributed. Like the last parabolic run in 2017, where 15% of all Bitcoin in existence moved out of old holders' hands into new holders' hands. Bitcoin was launched by just a person, and this was the fairest distribution they could have come up with given what was about to be launched. They wanted the world to know Bitcoin wasn't a scam, and this was reinforced by their conservative mining contributions, given what they could have done, their departure from the mining community, and their never spending of any coins. Unlike every other founder in history, Satoshi fairly launched their crypto. Even Vitalik didn't launch Ethereum fairly. Ethereum had a 60 million pre-mine for their ICO, where more than 40% of that, or 24 million, went to the top 100 purchasers, with the 3 largest going home with 1 million Ethereum each. Then 12 million more were pre-mined for the developers, founders, and early supporters. Thus, you can conclude that the Ethereum ICO was by no means fair, and Vitalik even admitted this on Twitter. He said, "I am personally really proud to have helped set the precedent of small pre-mines being legitimate. It's an appalling idea that people operating boxes burning huge piles of electricity are somehow the only ones who should be allowed to gain from crypto seigniorage revenue." Now, by no means am I hating on Ethereum. It is the daddy smart contract platform. But Vitalik is just wrong there, as their dev pre-mine of 12 million wasn't small, but actually 17% of the supply at the time. And this just legitimizes the pre-mine ICO model, missing the value of mining economics and a fully distributed proof-of-work system. Well, maybe that is why they are moving to proof of stake. These initial holders will be the large stakers, effectively controlling the network. Cheers, viewers. I'll see you next time.